Welcome to your February Amber Lab. I'm Melia Arnett Archie, co-founder of the Be Her Collective. But in my own business, I'm just Melia, ESQ, or the social media lawyer. Whatever you want to call me is fine with me. I'm here to help. And today's Amber Lab is about how you can use social media to jumpstart your business. So it's leveraging the power of social media to make sure that you are reaching the customers, the clients, the audience that you truly intend to reach. So a lot of this is going to probably be stuff you already know, and that's completely fine. But I want you to be sure that you're chewing the meat and you're spitting out the bones, and that you get the things that are really going to make a difference in your content strategy. And by the way, if you don't have a content strategy for your business, let's talk. You will also have access to this deck in our on-demand platform. So don't worry, if you miss something, you'll be able to go back and reference it later. In 2025 and beyond, you need to have social media as an intricate part of your business strategy, meaning you cannot continue to market without having some presence on social media. But not just any presence. We want to be very clear about the type of presence that's going to make a big difference to your customers and your clients and really allow you to speak directly to them in a way that makes sense. But I want to talk about a few housekeeping items. As you listen, remember, get what you came for. We're doing these Amber Labs because we really want you to be enriched. We want you to be able to walk away with something you didn't know, you're just learning, that you can integrate and you can use right away. So the number one rule in everything we're going to talk about today is don't leave without further understanding in an area where you know you're lacking. The premise of everything that I'm going to be talking about is a proprietary method that I've developed through my business called the trust triangle. We want to start from the very beginning with making sure that you know how to properly establish trust with your audience, with your potential customers, with the buyers, because people don't want to buy anything from you if they don't first trust you. So once you get your content strategy down, once you get your proof, your social proof, what you're using to build trust, and then you overlay that with a solid legal foundation, then you can start converting leads into sales. Before then, people are just going to keep scrolling. They're not going to listen to your offer. They're not going to stay to the end to even hear what the offer is. And they're certainly not going to trust you enough to buy from you. We're going to talk about how to sell across specific platforms. There's LinkedIn, there's Instagram, Facebook, and then TikTok. And I know a lot of us businesswomen, we don't see TikTok as a platform where we're marketing and selling our services and our products, but it certainly should be. And I'm going to speak to what we're seeing sort of as a change in the trend of how social media commerce is really working and why platforms like TikTok, why they're finding so much success with real businesses. The trust triangle is really simple. Three parts that you never want to forget. And this is how you relate and interact and relay your messages to, we're going to start by calling them your audience, right? Because what's the furthest thing from you? It's an audience, right? It's the people that are sitting way back there. They don't know you. They don't know where you came from. They don't know much about you. They're an audience. They're watching what you're doing, but they're not invested in what you're doing. So we're going to talk about how to turn your audience into a following, which is a little bit better, but still not what we want, because now our audience, they're not just the onlookers. They've now taken a step to actually follow you because they want to learn more about what you're doing. You've intrigued them. You've caught their attention. And so now they've pushed the follow button and they're followers. But we want to convert followers to community members. And the way that we do that is by showing our authentic selves. So that is the number one step in the trust triangle, is authenticity. Now I'm going to be very clear. I'm not talking about your stereotypical cliche authenticity. Everyone's talking about it. Just be your authentic self. Let me start by saying this. It's hard to be your authentic self when you don't know who you are. So before you can really define what's authentic for you, what's authentic me, what's authentic for Melia, I have to first know who I am. I have to know who I am. I have to know where I'm coming from, where I've come from, where I'm going, what matters to me, what makes me excited, what my passions are. All of those things define me. Even sort of my spiritual perspective. All of that holistically and comprehensively embodies who I am as a person. And once I'm clear about who I am authentically, then I need to become comfortable with sharing that. Again, with who? The audience. The people that are afar off, that I haven't necessarily connected with in an intimate way, but who I want to convert to followers and then to community members. And the way that I do that is I start showing a little more of who I am. Now, this can be a very, very, very hard concept for folks, right? Because if you're just learning who you are and you're not really used to being that vulnerable, this is going to feel very uncomfortable for you. For example, what I'm doing right now, I'm looking straight to camera. I'm talking to somebody that I can't see. I haven't met yet, maybe, that knows nothing about me, and I'm bearing the truth of who I am. What you see right now in front of your camera is exactly who I am. I'm not putting on a form of Melia. I'm not buttoning myself up in a suit in hopes that you like me. I am presenting this content authentically. The way that I speak, even the mistakes that I make. I may edit some of it out just to spare you, but for the most part, what you see is what you're gonna get. This is me through and through, and all of it matters. My intonations matter. My hand movements matter, right? My inflections in my voice, it matters, because what it starts to show you is who I am, right? How I present myself, how I carry myself, what I'm passionate about. And the more you let people in and they start to see your authenticity, that's when you start to move them down that spectrum from being audience members to followers to community members, and then ultimately as business owners or as, career folks where we're trying to sell something in-house, right? We have a C-suite that we need to sell an idea to. They have to be believers. And believers are only born out of a place of trust. If I don't believe you, I don't trust you. So it's that sharing and allowing yourself to be free to be you. The first pillar of the trust triangle. The second pillar is, it gets swapped with one. I would almost say these things are side by side. And this is relatability. What is relatability? Relatability is once I know who I am and I'm able to show up fully being who I am, then I can start to create content that helps you see yourself in my content. What do I mean by that? So again, just by me showing up every day being me, presenting to you in an authentic way, telling you about my products and services in an authentic way, about what it's done for me, about how I developed the trust triangle, why I think it's important. Then all of a sudden, as you hear me speak, you start to say, hey, I can relate to Melia. She makes mistakes. She bumbled a few words. She's told me that she's not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. Right? And so it's these small steps that we start to make with relatability that allows people to now, they don't see you as a product on a social media platform. They don't see you as a product that's being advertised to them on a screen. They see them, right? So if I talk in some of my content about being a mom, guess what? Every mom that comes across my content that maybe started as an audience member and they were like, what does she do? What is she up? Oh, she's a lawyer. She owns a content agency and she's a mom. She has a 5-year-old and a 19-year-old. How does she do it? All of a sudden, I'm a little bit more relatable because the person that's watching realizes that I have hardships, that I'm balancing and juggling as much as they are, that I don't sit from a place of perfection trying to sell them something that's gonna be an overnight fix to whatever problems they're trying to solve. Instead, authentically, through the content, I'm showing different variations of who I am that makes me relatable to my audience, and then to my following, and then to my community. And that's super duper important, because when we start to think about that conversion, right, from audience to following to community to buyer, the more people can relate to you, the more they will buy from you. Why? It's not your question. Because they trust you, right? Because I've shown you that I'm a mom. I've shown you that I took the leap from corporate to open this studio, this content agency, to open my own law firm. Now you feel a little bit more empowered that what I'm telling you is not just out of a book, which we'll get to mastery in a minute, because you do need mastery. But that's not all that I'm communicating to you. I'm also speaking from a place of what? Experience. And now my content is more relatable because you know my experiences. So I just want to speak directly to those of you who are afraid maybe to share some experiences because you think that sharing your experiences is going to be off-putting to your audience. Like, who wants to know that I've been divorced? Who wants to know that I had recurrent miscarriages? And I haven't been divorced. I'm using that as an example, honey. But you're thinking this as you're creating your content. Who wants to know these things about me in the business context? And I will say to you, it's your buyer. Maybe not your audience. Those people will weed themselves out. Maybe not even your followers. Some of those people will weed themselves out. But as you get into that sweet spot, that community building, those people are staying because now they know you because you've been authentic. They can relate to you because you've shown them how they can see themselves in your content. And now they believe. They've joined your community. That means you can take them where you go. Off the platform, and we'll talk about selling off the platform, using social media as the jumping point to community building. But once you build that community, they're going to go where you go. If it's through a funnel, if it's through your website, it's a landing page, if it's through a platform like Circle where you're building your own community, where you can own and foster further, deeper connections, they're going to go off the platform with you now because now they feel invested. All right? So that's what authenticity and relatability does. It helps you go from audience to community. But we cannot forsake mastery. Now, mastery, as you can see on the list, is number 3. And that's because mastery is not the most important thing. As a business owner, as career women, what we like to do is we like to start with what we know, right? We want everybody to know we're smart. We want everyone to know that we are well-learned, well-traveled, that we know what we're talking about, that we've read the books, we've listened to the podcast, and we have the information that they need. But if you start with mastery first, I guarantee you are going to lose a lot of your potential buyers because you cannot build community starting with mastery because there's no trust. And it doesn't mean that you're not weaving mastery into your authentic content or to your relatable content. It just means that's not all you're doing. So if you decide, listen, I'm going to launch a new clothing brand and I'm going to launch it on Meta's platforms, and you go after it and you private label all of this merchandise and you start to market it over Meta's platforms, and you're talking about why your product is the best. It's the best quality. It's made in Italy with the finest leather and the finest of cottons or whatever it is. And that's what you're talking about. Who cares? Because you haven't given them any reason to believe that your shirt, your hat, your camisole is any better than anyone else's, right? But when you start to sell that combined with your story, your origin story, well, listen, this is why I decided I was tired of working for other people. And so I'm taking a gamble, a bet on myself. And I'm bringing you along and allowing you to be a part of my journey. And then you start talking about that journey. Now what? I'm being authentic. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. You show them the behind the scenes when you're working with manufacturers and you're figuring out which fabrics are going to work, and they're seeing how the sausage is made, if you will. Then they can start to see themselves in your content because they're saying, I'm starting something too. I understand that she doesn't know it all. I don't either. And so now when you tell them, this is the best shirt you're going to be able to buy, and this is what I've learned along the way. I've learned that if you mix these fabrics and that if you manufacture in this way and if you ship in this way, then you can get a really, really quality product into your customers' hands in a way. Once they have that story, now your t-shirt becomes more than a t-shirt, right? Your camisole is more than just a camisole. There's a story behind it. And you're able to wrap that mastery up very beautifully in a way that endears people to be a part of your community and to now go from community members to buyers, which is what we ultimately want. So once we have the trust triangle, we want to talk about what the lack of trust is costing you as a business owner. So you're showing up, you're posting, you're promoting your offers, but clients are still hesitant, right? Or you get some people who seem to be interested and then they go away, they ghost you. These are all signs that, you haven't done enough to go deep enough, again, to transform that audience member to a follower, to a community member, to a buyer. And so you want to be cognizant as you're developing your social media strategy as to what you're seeing in terms of how people are reacting and responding to your content. If you've been in business or in career and you've been trying to build on social media, I would say anywhere from, 12 to 24 months, and you're not seeing a real change in your numbers, there's something wrong with trust. There's something wrong with the content that you're publishing that people just don't feel connected to it. So today what we want to do is give you some tips and tricks and some things to think about to help you change that. Because we should be growing, if it's not in the numbers, in the engagement with the following that you do have, that people are paying attention to what you're saying. The content is making a difference in their day, and the engagement rates will determine that. You'll be able to assess that and analyze your metrics in a way that will tell you, even if the numbers aren't high, that people are interested in what you're saying. Your content cannot feel like one big sales pitch. About 10% or less of my content is actually me selling anything. The other 80 to 90% of my content will be me doing the other two things that I just told you about, being authentic and making myself relatable. And even my content where I'm speaking specifically about legal issues that concern my target audience, or I'm speaking about content and content strategies, you'll see that that's still not me selling. Because once you build community and once you really, really, really have people on the hook to believe in who you are and what you're doing, those heavy sales pitches aren't necessary in the way that we might think they. I'm not saying you won't have to run paid ads, and listen, hear what I'm saying, is that you just showing up will help you sell the products and services in and of itself, if you build trust. If your business structure doesn't make clients feel secure in investing, they're not going to buy from you. So what does that mean? That means you spend a lot of time and attention in creating a social media brand. You have a strategy, you're regularly producing content, and then people go where you tell them to go to actually buy, and it's not professional. You might still have a Gmail instead of an email with a business domain. You may not have a website at all. And I'm going to suggest that websites are almost antiquated and out of style, but having a landing page, having a stand store, having something that replicates a website is still very much important, right? People want to know that you've invested in what you say you believe in before they invest in it. So you want to have an appropriate legal structure, and you want to have a professional place for people to go and consume your content and to buy from you. Those legal protections. So people want to know what the return policies are. People want to know what your terms of use are. People want to know, right, how their content will be used. If they post with your product, are you going to use their likeness and their image? So people are also looking at your web pages or your landing pages, and they're seeing, again, not only how well organized they are, but do you really know what you're doing as a business owner? All of these things are hugely important to building trust over social media and making sure that you're really leveraging the power that social media has to upgrade your business. So when people want to invest in you, they want to know what they're investing in. They want to make sure that it's not just your marketing. You want to have good marketing, but again, at some point you got to be able to speak to camera. I'm sorry, business owner, at some point, I don't want to see you doing the most, the trendiest reel where you're drinking a cup of coffee and you have text on screen. That works. You need to do some of that. But at some point, you're going to have to open up and you're going to have to look straight to camera and you're going to have to talk. You're going to have to tell people why. You're going to have to tell people what. You're going to have to tell people when. And you're going to have to tell people where. And that's going to require you to get over your fear of this little camera. And my trick for that is, even if you're recording content on your phone, to understand that your clients are behind the camera. So just envision that. Forget about the camera, because the camera freaks people out. Forget about it. Look through the camera and speak to your ideal customer, whoever that is. Now, of course, that means you need to have identified who your ideal customer is. What is that avatar? And go further. What demographics? Are they, what age range? How much money do they make annually? What do they like to do on the weekends? What is the psychological profile of your ideal customer? Because that is all going to determine how you speak to them. I'm very clear on who my customers are and who my customers are not. So that also helps me with that authentic and relatable content, because I know what folks who are going to buy from me, what they think is funny for the most part. They know it's a joke, right? Why? Because they're a part of my community. Right? So they're not judging me as an audience member. They can laugh with me as a community member because they know I'm joking. They know I'm a great mom because they've stayed long enough to see my other content and how I talk about my family. But my point is this, is that you have to be able to look through the camera and speak directly to somebody. And if you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. Everybody can't be your customer. Everybody can't be your client. Don't be afraid to be specific. You won't lose anybody that you're supposed to have. But you have to be comfortable defining your audience and going after them with everything that you have and speaking specifically to them. And then inevitably what happens is people who might fall outside of that net, you'll catch them too. Because guess what? I call myself the social media lawyer, but everybody knows I do more than that, right? So the business people will call me. The realtors will call me, the people in career will call me for things, because through my content, they're seeing what I've done before, my prior expertise, the things that I'm good at, that I can communicate well. And so the point that I'm making is that being super niched is not a negative. It just allows you to speak specifically to your audience, which is absolutely imperative to an effective social media strategy. One of the reasons why people are scrolling right past you is because they don't feel like you're talking to them. Simple as that. They don't feel like you're talking to them. In the first 6 seconds of your video, they need to know you're talking to them. So we have the trust triangle. We know what it is. What do we do about it? What do we do about it? How do we make it work? We want to stop selling and start speaking plain points. So again, as I'm talking about being authentic and being relatable, that means you need to speak in terms that people can understand. And listen, for lawyers, for accountants, for realtors, for people who are in, anybody doing anything with money. And I'm taking this personal because I went to law school because I don't do math well. But it's really hard for those of us who are in these, very cerebral niches, right? Where it sometimes takes an interpreter for us to help people understand what we're talking about. We've got to break it down. And not only do we have to break it down in a way that the everyday person can understand it, but we've got to start with the pain point. You know why it matters to you, because it's information that you want to convey. You think that this message is important. But to your community member, who you're trying to convert to a buyer, they need to know specifically what problem it's solving. So never be afraid in your content to start with the problem. I know, we don't want to be negative. Nobody wants to say that if you don't do this in the next 6 months, your business is going to fail. But guess what? It's going to get their attention. They're already worried about it. They're already worried about the success of their business. They're already worried about not having the structure in place to be able to be successful. And you just spoke directly to their pain point, and now they're all ears, and now they're ready to buy, so long as you've done the other things. Clients, again, they're not waking up thinking, I need to buy a program today. Oh, I need to give Melia my money and join her creators vault today. That's not on the top of their mind, but what they are waking up thinking about is their struggles. Raise your hand if you're waking up every morning, sometimes a lot earlier than we want to admit, and all that we're thinking about is, man, I missed that yesterday. I forgot to return that email. Gosh, I didn't follow up with that client. Man, if I don't tighten this process up, I'm not going to get where I want to go, or I didn't meet my financial target, or I didn't do this. By nature, and I'm not advocating that we live in this place of negativity, but what I am saying is it's human. And so the quicker that you can call out the pain point for your potential client or customer through social media and let them know that you understand their problem. I get it. You're worried you're not going to make it. And guess what? I'm talking about it in a way that makes them understand what? I know your problem better than you do. This is why you need me. You call me because I'm articulating to you, not only do I see you, do I understand your pain point? I'm not only just talking about the pain point, but now I'm about to come around and provide the very solution that you need to solve it. Show proof that you get results. And we talk about this a lot. You know, this is not novel, this idea that you should be getting reviews. Google reviews will never go out of style. Keep getting them. Every time you close business for a client or customer, the very next thing you should be doing is sending a link for them to give you a review. That's never not gonna be important. But that's not what I'm talking about over social media. What I'm talking about over social media is it's one thing for you to have the mic and you to talk about how wonderful your products and services are. There's another thing to have someone else that you've served, someone else that you've serviced, someone else that has used your product to talk about how well the product works, how well the service went, what their experience was. Do not forsake the social proof. And I'm not just talking about trying things out and see how well they go and getting people to give you thumbs up. I'm saying going that extra step and having people speak for you. User-generated content. If I sell a widget, and this is the best widget on the market, I can have somebody create a video talking about how well my widget worked for them, and then I can post that to my page, and it may be somewhat effective. But what's more effective is that if I use that same customer who's tried the widget and who is now on their page talking to their audience about how well the widget worked, then I'm gonna run that from their page as a paid ad. So it's coming from them. So there's two ways to think about it. It's their voice, it's their influence, it's their presence that's helping to amplify the message that you're trying to convey. So don't think that it always has to be a static Google review or some other written review on your website. Allow people to talk about how good you are, because people are going to believe them in terms of how well the product or service works before they believe you, because they've used it, right? And they have no skin in the game. Give them something to value before they buy. And I'm a big proponent of be careful of how much free stuff you give, because you don't want to dilute your offer. You don't want to dilute your sale. But people also have to be able to taste it. Ice cream shops do a great job of it. They give you that little sample spoon, and baby, they will let you sample away. Why? Because they're confident that you're going to find a flavor that you actually like, and you're not going to leave there without an ice cream cone. So don't be afraid to give a sample size of your product and services so that people can know the value that they're going to get when you then make your long-term, your big offer. For me, I do that with my office hours, which is a part of my larger creators vault. So I made the price of office hours affordable and accessible so that I can have as many people join as possible. I start with an educational portion where for about 15 minutes, I'm talking about a topic maybe like this. And the rest of the time they can ask me whatever they want. If I have an answer, I'll give it to them. If not, I'll do my best to try to find it. Or sometimes the community is filling in. But the point is, they are now getting a feel for what it's like to be a part of my community, right? Either for free or for a very low barrier of entry. I'm letting them sample. They're in my ice cream shop and they're not gonna leave without selecting a flavor. Then create a clear roadmap. After you've had people talk about your products, your services, and how well they work for them, after you've given them that sample size, access to what you do so they can get comfortable with you, they can become a believer and you have some value that they want, then take them along the way. What do they do next? Where do they go to buy? There are a lot of different technology tools that you can integrate into your social media strategy to be able to help you automate that, because we all know there's not time to follow up with every single lead on social media, as well as every lead that's coming through your website, every lead that's coming word of mouth. But every lead that you let drop is a potential customer that you'll never have. Pro tip, pro tip, pro tip. If you are not selling products or services through the e-commerce platform that you're on, whether that's TikTok or Instagram, they actually have e-commerce built into their platform. I'm going to strongly encourage you not to have a business account. Okay? And I know that sounds counterintuitive to the advice that you probably have gotten. You need a business account. No. Business accounts are extremely restricted with how you can utilize them because they're commercial. But when you are using your account to educate, to do the things that we talked about, with authenticity and relatability, and you're building community, you don't need a business account to then be able to take that community that you've built and lead them over to where they can buy from you. When you do that within the context of a social media business account, everything's going to be limited. They're going to limit your reach more. They're going to limit the sounds that you can use. It becomes more restrictive and harder for you to grow. But again, if you are selling products through their e-commerce services, you likely will have to have a business account. That's one of the ways they make sure that you don't get into trademark and copyright trouble. But if you don't, avoid using platforms' business accounts, okay? If you're selling over social media, I'm gonna suggest you use something like a stand store where people can purchase from you direct, and that means consultations, coaching sessions, webinars, digital products, all of the things that you want to get in the hands of your customers and clients. Make it accessible to them without them having to leave the platform. If you are really doing a good job of engaging customers and clients over social media, they wanna buy right now. They don't want to click and then have to go somewhere else and then do 2 or 3 more. Limit the clicks so that you can get the products and services in their hands as quickly as possible. So at VoiceBox Podcast and Content Agency, we're helping you do things like this. So remember what I talked about earlier, where I was going to show you my authentic self. I was going to show you in my content and show you that I'm a master. I for sure know what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to make an ask, right? I'm going to make an ask for you. And that's what I'm going to do now. So after you've done that, I've told you all the value that I bring. I've told you all of the great things that I'm doing. But now I need you to make a decision about whether or not you want to know more, whether or not you want to engage with me more. So I'm going to introduce my Creators Vault. And it's inside my Creators Vault where this is just a microcosm of the things that we talk about to make sure that we're leveraging social media to really grow our businesses and our brands. And this is the QR code. Remember that roadmap we talked about? You don't have to go anywhere. Scan this QR code. It's going to take you right to the Creators Vault, and you're going to be able to sign up in action. And of course, if you're watching this on demand as a member of the Be Her Collective, then you have a discounted access to the Creators Vault, to office hours, to all of the things that I've talked about. But the point is, you got to take advantage of all of the opportunities that all of our experts and all of our community members are making available to you. Reach out and let me know if you have any more questions, comments, anything I can help you with. I'm here for you. Thank you for being a part of the Be Her Collective. You're the best.